Hello and welcome to Hardcast, and join us for the prequel to the 2016 Valiant event. I'm Humphrey Erm.
And my name is Chris.
Lifeline, give me Rye Volume 4, 4001 AD.
Issue 13. We see the story of the first Rai, a little orphan boy that was taken away by father and made into Rai. He was created to inspire New Japan and was successful. But a small rebellion started as a response to this positronics. Rai came to help and asked them to stop, but the group set him a trap. Rai falls for it and is killed and jettisoned from New Japan to Earth. Father realizes he needs a new ride built for a different task.
All right. So this is the world building the volume.
Yep.
So it's so cool. And this is one of those moments where I feel it works coming with this stuff later. Like we didn't need to have this or a shortened version of this, before we started reading the first like a Rye volume.
No, of course not.
So because sometimes I'm a bit bothered when they'll have issue one and it's like everything's in the middle of stuff, and then they'll have like an issue zero later on and like, oh, here's the origin.
Right.
And it depends on how it is, because if it's like a totally new character, I kind of feel like I want a little bit more to understand. But with Rye, it's just like you get the story starts in Rye Volume 1. There's not the world building, which I think works really well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't necessarily need to have all the history of everything going on. I mean, even with something like Batman or something like that, I mean, we didn't immediately have his backstory right away in the first Detective Comics, right?
Yeah,
like his
right.
first appearance in
Yeah,
Detective
the
Comics.
origin came later. Like the only
Right.
thing they had was, oh, it's Playboy Bruce Wayne.
Right, and that's what I mean. Like you have these characters that you like, and then you can always, tell the actual story afterwards because it doesn't really matter necessarily what their backstory is, as long as you know. I guess as long as it's compelling and long as there's been a thought about it in some sense, um, because that's what makes the characters interesting. I mean, obviously, I don't know what the inspiration was of Batman. If it always was one of these things where it's like, oh, he's afraid of bats, so that's why he wants to instill that fear in the people, but probably not. It was just, yeah, it's cool, Batman, cool, let's do that.
Well, that's the thing. It's I think we've discussed that before. Like obviously we need the substance within any like story or whatever. But the surface is super important as well, because it's what gives you that, not just what brings you in from the start. Because again, I doubt if you were selling Batman as, oh, it's about this man whose parents were killed when he was a kid and now he fights crime. Like if you leave out all the costume and bats and gadgets, it's just not as interesting.
Right, but I mean, kind of would be. I mean, he's just a detective.
Well, yeah, no, sure, but it's not the same. It's not the same character then if you leave that out. What I mean is in terms of if you describe it about like, oh yeah, and he dresses up in this cool costume with a cape, and he has like a Batmobile, and but another thing that I just wanted to point out too, just regarding this topic, a big part of the first volume of Rye is the mystery, like who is this woman who gets killed, and what is all this stuff going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is told. We are told who it is in that volume, right?
Yeah, yeah, at the end, but
Yeah.
or maybe a little sooner, but that's what I mean. It's planned from the get go to be a mystery, even if it doesn't last forever. Which wouldn't work then with Batman in a sense, because we don't have a mystery about his origin.
Well, who is Joe Chill?
No, he's just a normal nobody. So I
Or is he the Joker?
no, I don't like
Is
that.
he the Joker though?
No, I don't like that. I mean, it's fine for
Were
like.
they always destined to be fighting against each other?
No, I can't remember who it was who wrote this. Might have been Chris Sims on Comics Alliance. But the whole point with the whole thing, the way his parents are killed, it has to be a nobody. It has to be just a random act, because that's what makes him then, and that's what gives him this whole crusade against crime.
Yeah.
If he knows it was Falcone or whoever, mob boss, then it's a specific, target there. As long as he can kill him or, get rid of him, then he's avenged them. But because it was a guy we never even get to know who he was, then he has to fight crime in general, which is, the whole setup.
What was that? The guy who did the super cringy thing with Kevin Conroy?
I don't know, maybe? What do you think?
Like when he met Kevin Conroy or something like that. Like he was like some sort of con or something like that, and then he asked him to say in the Batman voice something like, "How was it like? I am Batman, and Chris, you are my friend," or something like that.
That okay, now yeah, when you say it like that, I might have been him. I don't know. I think it's like yeah, I don't know. It's not too cringy. I feel. I mean, it is a little bit, but it's a fan,
Yeah, I know, I know.
and he's also the guy who I think I shared that with you, or if you found it yourself. He's the one who analyzed the Batman animated series intro and like went into detail about why it works so well.
No, I don't remember.
It was amazing. Like it's one of those things where like it's just a good intro, but how it's the essence of Batman. Like my favorite point was the importance of showing the Batmobile because he mentioned like it could have been anything. We could have seen like a close up of him putting on his utility belt. I mean that's a very Batman thing, and like anything else. But the fact he has a Batmobile makes it clear that he isn't superhuman in sense. He has to drive to places. Like he can't just be there immediately. He has to, he has to go from one place to another using sure cooler means than we can, than a normal citizen would, but still sort of following the laws of physics in a sense.
Is this a Valiant podcast or a Batman podcast?
Yeah, I know that got crazy really quickly, but yeah, that was search for that article if you guys because it was a really nice article.
Why don't you just put it into the show notes?
You're right.
What a great concept.
But yeah, it's but one thing I like with this first issue is I like the fact that things weren't working out in New Japan. You can like see the opening of it, the fact that it's a little more cyber dystopian kind of.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I like that fact that things weren't just kind of the same. Like there actually was a long period of time with things just getting worse. And then, he came up with the first rock. Yeah.
Sourdough bread. That's awesome.
So ersatz rice.
Seriously, you want to take another shot at that?
Hmm?
It's ersatz, not ersatz.
It is just an English podcast, Chris.
It's just like, seriously, I'm sorry, but I mean, this is like a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but a lot of people have been talking about this YouTube channel called Kurzgesagt.
Okay, don't know it.
Yeah, it's just like some sort of educational YouTube channel. And it pisses me off so much because no one can pronounce that name. So I mean, it took me the longest time to understand what this one guy, because this guy, CGP Grey, he does a lot with them. And when he talks about it on his podcast, I had no idea who he was talking about because he calls it Kurzgesagt. And I was just like, or he kind of says something like that. And I mean, I know it's a hard word to pronounce, and I think even the YouTube channel kind of changed their name even after like 5 years of doing their thing and under Kurzgesagt because no one could get that TZ at Kutz, so it always kind of like I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, I just heard someone else, like I think John Green, also on his podcast, talking about Kurzgesagt and then also saying it wrong. And I was just like, come on, it's not that hard. Anyway.
That's how it goes, though. Like, I like pissing off my French, what's called colleagues at work with saying things like syllabus plate.
Well, that's just being an idiot.
Yeah, I know, but it's just kind of fun, though, with the whole, the way different people with different languages will pronounce things. The way they see it spelled. It's kind of like, oh, okay, so this is syllabus plate.
Yeah, like I really don't like it when Americans try to pronounce German words with an E at the end. Because they always think it's a silent E. And it's just like, come on, guys. It's not, I mean, no.
Oh, maybe the Germans then have trouble saying names like Luke or something.
I don't know.
Another thing I just wanted to make sort of, well, not make fun of, but just thought it was a little bit like too on the nose. The fact that the first Rye has a shirt with a red spot on it.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Is that how Fodder picks them out? Oh, there we go. There's
Yeah. Ah, yes, his fashion sense is the same as mine. Good.
so it's a cool concept. I do wonder though, what does all the dead bodies, like the skeletons in the lake, imply? Like failed
It
attempt?
implies that no. I'm thinking it's just that murder has happened in like people have been murdered and they've just been hidden there.
That could be.
Oh yeah, maybe also failed attempts, but then why is the steer there?
well, maybe try with animals first.
Yeah, some
oh
animal testing.
god, yes. Now I want like a what's it called like a steer rye.
A bull rye.
Yes, we'll have to save all that fun stuff for. I think it's the is it the current the Bloodshot series currently published?
Oh, with the bloodshot dog thing.
Yeah, the Bloodhound.
Blood spot.
ah man, I mean we already discussed that when Bloodshot Reborn, but damn, if it's not a lot of good like thematic naming with that name. Even the stuff they were trying to make fun of actually worked well, like the blood bank as his lair. Anyways,
As you know, listeners, when we don't talk about the comic, that means the comic was good.
yes, and again, it's fine. I mean, this is I love stuff like this, especially worlds like this where it's a very different value system. Like it's really I like the way people behave here because it's so foreign. Well, not foreign in the sense of like oh people are being assholes. So, but more in the sense of just okay. So, despite basically being given everything, like we are given the impression that no one is for want of anything. It's like a post scarcity society, it seems. So, which is the whole thing there. We'll discuss that in the next issue. But it's just like everything's perfect, and that's sort of the problem there because it's not on their terms. So it's like a very human behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and just the sadness thereof. Them beating up this little robot child.
Yeah, but I also liked how they were like, no, it has to first bring out its weapons before we can attack it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because didn't they say they were recording or?
Yeah, something like that. They just wanted to make sure that, like, no, Rai is a bad guy. He's gonna, kill us if we decide to harm it or whatever. But also, it's kind of weird that they technically never actually captured the thing. So I don't know. I don't know if that's why they're kind of like if these become now the ratties, like bad guys.
So yeah, I mean, I'm guessing this is what they are. They're like the proto ratties.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking is that maybe this is why they became the ratties. Then maybe they were actually shunned then by the population of New Japan because they were like, oh, these people killed Rai, who was a great person or a great savior of New Japan, and they just killed him. So now they're the bad guys. Whereas all they wanted to do was show them, that he was actually a bad guy. If that makes any sense, I don't know. I'm rambling.
But no, I think you're right in that sense. I mean, we don't get to see it like portrayed in terms of like a propaganda piece showing off. I'm guessing Rai has like what do you call it? Like camera lens eyes or something. Like he can record what he's seeing. There's plenty of proof of them like attacking him. I'm sure he could Fodder could have used that as like, yeah, see, look at these awful people. Then again, they did have a point. I mean, he probably could have drowned them with that hose.
Yeah, but still, I mean,
I really like that. It reminds me a lot of Astro Boy,
yeah.
especially the way his arms like transform there. I think a lot of modern iterations portray it like that when he like shoots things from his like arms. So as well as just what's called evil humans beating up robots. But also what I like about this stuff though, which again we've seen before as well, but I do like for however all powerful Fodder is, I do like that there are blind spots. Like it's never feels like it's entirely like always under his control.
Do you think that there are actually blind spots, or is it just one of those like he lets people think there are blind spots?
Oh, so I don't know. I mean, it's I got the impression there must have been, unless it's one of those things where there aren't, but maybe it's hard to keep track of everything, even for like a supercomputer.
Mm,
Because I'm thinking back with the previous issues as well as 4001 AD. I feel like Lula being able to hide that easily in a sense, and having like the Geomancer hide in some corner somewhere.
right.
You'd feel somehow that, oh, if he does have things where he can like sense, like have sensors or something, like with the Geomancer, I'm sure she would have had some
Yeah.
kind of radiation or something
Yeah,
that
I
kind
guess you're
of.
right. Yeah. I guess I'm just kind of, I kind of started thinking about that because because father then says that he anticipated it. And because he was kind of talking about that New Japan needed a new kind of protector,
Mm.
that he kind of was like, I'm going to count my losses and just let them kill him. I'm pretty sure that he could have done something else if he really wanted to keep Rai alive or this child alive. So I think that this was kind of like let's see what happens.
Actually, I think you're right about that, especially with the later issues here, because it implies that he knows what's going on, and then he still can have other things made or like done, like without his Rise consent. But yeah, anything else?
Not for issue 1.
Issue 14. We are now further into the future, and we find ourselves with a new Rai. This time, a woman named Sai. Father tells her that he killed a group of people that she just saved for the greater good. She denies this and runs off, only to come between some humans and positrons at each other's necks, with the positrons recording the encounter in order to further their cause. As the fighting continues, an older Rai, Aboto, sweeps in and kills the humans. He brings Sai with him to an observation deck to see the area they just fought in detached and dropped to Earth, with Sai questioning whether she'll be replaced by Aboto. He snarls at her.
I want to see that the God Rai.
The God Rai?
Yeah, or sometimes a god.
Oh, that one, yeah, a little. I felt it was very Superman esque.
Yeah, I mean, even just even the warrior Rai too. That looks awesome, like with the wings and everything.
Oh yeah, I mean it's again, you just get this whole sense here very quickly. We just get a whole, what would you say? Well, just a whole lineage of different kinds of Rise.
Politician Rai is a little bit boring though.
Yeah, but it's also kind of why I like him though, because you kind of have just this guy. He has so many versions of people who build things and jump around and fight, and then he experiments with talking. I'm kind of hoping now, though, in sort of this post 4001 AD, like now in 4002 AD, it would be really cool if they have something like not a reunion with all the old Rise necessarily, but yes, something kind of cool, like maybe all the Rise kind of meet up, and some might be evil or something. And maybe some people are still loyal to Fodder or something like that, so they're gonna get revenge on Rai. And it'll just be cool to see like a whole assortment of really cool designs in different
Yeah.
different powers and abilities and weapons.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I just love it when you have like, I mean, it's a simple visual theme. It's the Japanese flag, so it's gonna be easy to
But not
do.
even that. I mean, it's not always the Japanese flag, really. I mean, sometimes it's more prevalent than before. Like, I mean, if you look at Sai, for example, she only has a red dot on her forehead.
Mm.
The same with the politician Rai. The warrior Rai seems like doesn't have a dot at all. Her face is just red.
Maybe
And
that's the
then
dot.
with the god Rai, you don't really see. I think he does have a dot in his chest. But like for example, the first Rai is just white and red. There's no dot anywhere.
Yeah, no, I think. Well, either way, you kind of still get the sense of you get a color scheme, of course, or like a basis for one, and a bit of like the whole design aspect. But yes, makes it cool to kind of have all these. Well, yes, be cool to see a lot of these characters. I mean, most of them seem to die now,
Yeah.
but I'm sure. I mean, there's still quite a few. I think they can reveal.
You think so? I mean, some of them were sent down to Earth. I mean, obviously, from what would it be? Is it Rye Volume 3? I don't know. The one that we read before where they met that woman with a child on
Yeah,
the
that was
beach.
free. Yeah, that was free.
I mean, that's obviously Sai. with her baby.
Mm, exactly. Yeah. So, which then makes sense. That also explains then what we were kind of curious about before, whether it was a rye or a bloodshot.
Right.
So, but then it was indeed what's called a Boto's child, which again kind of cool. Then would be interesting to see more with that. Then in the future, well, I mean, there's so much stuff now, which is what I like about stories like this. It's like so layered, but we keep focused on a certain story, and then these other things, it can either just be up for us as the audience to kind of imagine and like come up with our own explanations, or like stories, or fodder for future stories. I gotta say though, the whole the like the shooting the positron stuff in that shooting gallery reminds me a lot of
Yeah.
that the movie AI. So did you ever see AI, the Spielberg film?
Yeah. I think I watched it. Didn't it have Robin Williams in it?
No, I think that's the Centennial Man or something, or the Bionic.
I don't know, something like that, right? It was that little kid, right? That
Yeah, little kid, but I don't think Robin Williams was in that one.
no thing. Jude Law was in it. He was like a
Oh,
robot thing.
oh right,
Wasn't it?
the
Wasn't there like a?
Gigolo.
Yeah, 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 yeah. That was it. Yeah, and then they had like, yeah, I remember they went to like a scrap yard and something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking of with this, with them shooting them. Like that is
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing where the humans would get all these robots or androids, whatever they'd call them, and they'd have like a whole thing where they'd like destroy them for fun.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
There's always an interesting thing there, especially. I mean, there is that whole discussion already now with these sort of sex robots and stuff. In terms of like, okay, when is it like too human, and when do we have to worry about like how people treat these things?
When it starts saying no.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting because it's. I mean, it's the whole uncanny valley thing. Like if they don't look like a person, a robot, then we don't really care if we like destroying them or throwing them away.
I don't know. I think if you like destroying something, no matter what, like if you like destroying even like I don't know a lamp, or say if your normal activity is going out on the weekends to destroy something, like be it one of those like when you go to one of those car junkyards where you can smash a car or something like that.
Mm.
If you do that on a regular basis, and that's your way of like letting stress off or something like that, you there might be something wrong with you. The next level up is torturing animals, and then
Mm.
or insects, and the next level up on that is like animals, and then the next one up is humans, right? So I feel like destroying inanimate objects on a regular basis. I mean, like, yeah, if you accidentally break something, or you throw something against a wall out of a
Yeah,
fit
no,
of
no,
rage or
of
something like that, that's
course.
fine. Or not fine, but you know what I mean. But if you're regularly destroying things because that's what gets you off, that's a problem. So it doesn't. I feel like it has nothing to do with the uncanny valley or any kind of like how much like humans do they seem. I mean, it might be a degree of something, but anyone who like goes to a shooting range and fires at objects to destroy them, that's a problem because the idea in your mind is that I want to destroy something, but I have to destroy inanimate objects. And then I feel like it's just a couple of steps away from, as I said, killing animals and then killing humans.
I see what you mean with that. I don't know, just the odd thing in terms of. 'Cause I see your point in terms of just the act itself more than like the targets. So, but I don't know. I'm just thinking of like other kind of activities that people do like in terms of whether they themselves are the ones destroying or not.
Mm,
Like monster truck shows, usually they'll have other cars that they like crush over and stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, the the monster truck shows are exactly that. You want to see things get destroyed. You don't go there because you want to see a big car with big tires, driving around. No, you want to see that big car with big tires destroying stuff and doing flips and all that kind of stuff. Same thing with boxing. You don't go to boxing to watch the sport of boxing. No, you want to see a guy get his living shit kicked out of him or punched out of him.
Ah man, I mean, again, I'm not, not gonna be a wet blanket and let's go be against boxing or anything, but it is such a weird thing how just simple consent and rules
Yeah.
can make something where you could potentially die.
Oh, people have died.
I know, but I just mean that's what I'm saying potentially in terms of it's there. You know, it's not like you're playing like football, for example. Sure, you can get hurt because you're running. I mean, you know, you know, I know from experience. You know, just moving, you know, hurt yourself.
Yeah, running backwards.
Yes, never do that,
Yes.
kids. Don't run backwards. It's just that kind of thing where it becomes this sense of because I do believe humanity in general has this urge. We've had it like since forever. You know, like if you take like gladiatorial fights in Rome and all that, you know, we have a penchant for destruction of some sort. And it seems like today the kind
Yeah,
of
but I
nice
don't
thing
know.
is,
I don't think that's something that you can. I don't think that's something that you can use as an excuse. I mean, it can't be like, oh, but it was our tradition to do this. You know what I mean? Like it also used to be tradition to sacrifice virgins, and we don't do that anymore.
yeah, no, absolutely. But what I mean is, you have then, I guess you could call, what would it be, placebos or surrogates for those things. You know,
Yeah,
instead of war, we can have sporting matches. You know, instead of like watching gladiatorial fights, you know, people killing each other, we can watch movies or play games. Like there are healthier approaches to those things. And my question then is, at what
yeah. I guess
point?
it is a healthier approach. Yeah.
But that's my question there. Then, like, you know, as you said about destroying things,
Mm.
like sure, you know, it's there's a difference between you yourself going to a junkyard, as you said, and like, you know, beating up a car, you know, just taking a crowbar or something, and sitting, you know, you and me sitting down and playing Monster Hunter and like, you know, quote unquote killing these monsters.
Yeah.
So, but and again, it's I don't think we're really playing them in terms of like, oh, I have so much aggression I want to get out. You know, we like the moving about, the style, and all that.
Well, that's what I mean. That there's a disconnect, and I feel like that's why so many of these like soccer matches and stuff like that have that those hooligans attached to it
Mm.
because they want to get aggression out. I mean, they're watching the games in order to I guess get some sort of frustration out or whatever, which is again such a barbaric kind of thing to watch these matches and be like, oh yeah, let's die other team or whatever. And I mean, if you're asking about like if this would be a possibility, this kind of like having these PTs standing in line and getting shot, I'd say yeah, obviously this is going to become a thing because we know how humans are, and it's going to be a thing like this. Um, do I think it's good? No. I think something like this shouldn't happen. This shouldn't be something. I mean, that's why it looks like this is a whole like a black market kind of thing where it's not necessarily the most legal thing. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, the way that they talk about that PT is kind of like how Americans talked about slaves,
So it's almost like there's a parallel with these guys.
right?
So yeah, no, obviously it's a lot of stuff like that. But it always becomes this trickiness. Like I always think of that this one clip from an old Simpsons episode when the townspeople go to destroy like a museum because they hate science. And then there's a robot on fire roaming about and crying out, "Why? Why was I programmed to feel pain?"
Right, yeah.
And part of the thing is there where it comes into this whole why give them personalities? Like why give them I mean, it's a plot point or a minor plot point in the new Solo movie as well. One of the new characters, L337. Yes, it's Leet.
Oh God.
Yes, I mean they never say Leet, but you know it's what it is. But yeah, it's an android that's like going all about like droid rights.
Yeah, that sounds like a really fun character.
Oh, I actually liked her. So she was fun because it was. But the thing is, it comes to this trickiness here where it's like, yes, they are robots, you know, so they are made, you know, they're not like living creatures. But it's also very clear that they have some sense of, you know, self, you know?
Yeah.
You know, it's not just I am a robot. It's like really like I mean they can disagree, they'll have input, they have fear.
What is my purpose? You pass butter. Oh my God.
Yeah. No, but exactly that kind of thing, you know, it's once you put that kind of you know, if you put that kind of emotion into a robot there, it's just what were you hoping to accomplish with that?
Mm.
Though I gotta say, with Rise universe with New Japan, there actually is some semblance of a reason for it. I mean, they mentioned if it was in this volume or a previous one when they first introduced like the idea of a companion. They seem to have been introduced in order to like cull population growth.
Yeah, I said it in the last issue.
Was it last issue they mentioned it? Okay, because they mentioned it in a
Well,
few
they mentioned it
previous.
specifically. No, they brought the children, like
Right,
the
right.
child versions of the PTs, so that people wouldn't want to have kids, or to suppress the feeling of wanting to have children or making their own children.
Exactly. So in that sense, there's an actual reason why they have, why they are so human-like and have emotions, rather than other scenarios where it's like again, like in Star Wars, it's like why? It's a droid that's supposed to prepare your X-wing. Why are you giving it feelings?
Because we can.
Is that some old webcomic too of like someone made a robot that can scream or something?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Why? And it's like, huh. But anyways, that's what I mean. That's where it gets kind of tricky there. Like, at what point is it like, oh, look, the toaster wants independence,
Right, right, right.
and at what point is
Toaster
it
rights.
yes, and at what point is it like, well, we basically have created life here. I guess
Right.
it is immoral of us to treat you guys like this when you can feel, even if it's not, like a nervous system. Again, I mean, it's funny though, as I mentioned, because I've seen some stuff with this like new technology with like sex robots and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it has been like on the radar for people now in terms of okay, they're kind of getting advanced now.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, they're still yes, they just have phrases they can repeat. It's just they can increase the
We've only told her how to say yes, but that works.
amount.
Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, sorry, just because of you mentioned that you did a Rick and Morty reference before with the butter robot.
Mm.
I'm just thinking of like the 1% capacity, like reality. The one that where Jerry succeeds because everyone's like at the lowest capacity.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's always just yes, yes, everything's great because just everything. Ah well.
Ah, good times.
But last thing then before because going on different tangents here. I mean, how badass is Aboto? I mean, splash page, guy in a hood and cloak and laser whips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whoa! So it's like it's almost too cool. It's like almost a little try hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I love it. Love it so much.
It just works. Like hoods are kind of like the. I'm not sure. I mean, they've always kind of existed, but I feel hoods are kind of like the cool new thing, or like the cool modern thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I just kind of feel that.
Seriously, this guy, if he had everything was in black instead of red, instead of white, he could be a Sith master.
Good lord! Actually, you know what? This whole, well, not the whole volume really, so, but a lot of this could be like Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, it could actually be a Star Wars story.
So yeah, I mean,
Oh
this
my
is
God,
really
Bloodshot, a
sick.
Star Wars story. No, not Bloodshot. Rye, a Bloodshot story. Rye, a Star Wars story.
Ah man.
Coming Christmas 2020.
So well, if that's what's gonna take to get a Rai movie out, sure. But yeah, I mean, it just looks really cool.
If that's what's going to take for Star Wars to get a positive opening weekend again.
We'll see how it goes with all this stuff. I mean, it's such a shit show. The whole.
Yeah, everything. It's so much fun because I'm not in that fan base at all. I can just sit back with my popcorn and just watch it happen.
Yeah, it's just so weird because I don't know. It's kind of like with the Ghostbusters thing 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, that was also a sit down and move all the way to the back because I did not like the Ghostbuster movies at all.
So yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I didn't like them either. And here's a big shocker that I always shock anyone I talk to when this subject comes up. I prefer Ghostbusters 2016 over the original. And again, that's the death sentence in terms of like even people who were all for 2016 version, even they will be like, no, no. So, but it's just, but the thing is, everyone. What I noticed when the reviews came out finally of it, everyone actually seemed to have the same opinion. but they would raise or lower the score based on what would you say, like position they had on it. Like if someone was for the film, they would mention like, yeah, it's it was a bit middling at times. Some of the humor doesn't quite work. So, but we want to like stick it to the man babies. So 8 out of 10. And same thing with the man babies. They'll be like, wasn't quite as bad as I thought it would be. I chuckled a few times. It was kind of stupid, but not offensively so. Like, take that, feminists. 3 out of 10. Even though everyone agrees it's a 5 out of 10. Anyways, even further away from what's called comics and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh God, sorry. Just
All right, well, let's move on.
yeah, sorry. Just with you mentioning him looking like a Sith Lord at the last panel of issue 14. I mean, actually, that whole page, last page, it could be Star Wars. It really could be. Okay.
Have you heard the story of Darth Plagueis the Great? Not this shit again. This episode is sponsored in part by...
When you're visiting Vega Pleasure Center, be sure to stop by the Strip Cabaret located opposite the Black Powder Shooting Range. Come see real women the way Father intended. Use the offer code HEARTCAST69 for 20% off your first private dance. This is Rosie. See you soon.
Too many kids? Not enough ersatz rice or pseudo bread to feed them all? Would you just like to simplify your day-to-day? Don't wait another second. Instead, give up one or more children to one of New Japan's many orphanages. We'll make sure to make use of the limited space provided so that you can live better. New Japan's Orphanage Association. It's okay if everyone does it.
Issue 15. Aboto tells Sai about his time on Earth, where he believed he was being tested by Father to defeat the threats to New Japan that are still located on Earth. After his success, he is brought back to New Japan, where the new Rai, Sai, has already been busy. Sai uses her charm to convince Aboto not to kill her and instead join her against Father. Aboto narrates that he was just staying with her for his mission, but then actually does fall in love with her. Father finds their hideout and jettisons their house. Aboto, who is still outside, manages to stay on New Japan, but the pregnant Sai falls to Earth. Aboto goes full rage and attacks Father, but isn't able to defeat him. He retreats to the mountains to stay there, and a new Rai is born. All right.
All you need is love.
Da 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 da.
Just super cool, super badass.
Again, I'm telling you, this is a Sith Lord. Like, totally.
It is. I'm surprised I didn't think of that myself, because especially with the whole, all the like the sci-fi like themed backgrounds and objects and stuff. Like, it all works. I mean, I'm looking at him here now destroying like that place on Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, this could very well be, for one of the expanded universe comics.
And especially because his whips are kind of like lightsabers. The idea that it is like a light kind of coming out of the hilt.
I do wonder what the lore and the physics of that is, though. Like within Star Wars, I have a friend who's really crazy about Star Wars. So,
I mean, haven't they just kind of like confirmed like in real life that would never work because you couldn't like trap light?
Well, exactly. I mean, it never made sense from the get-go that it would stop. And a laser whip too since I don't think it can, unless it's like with a black hole or something. I don't think the lights would curve like the way they would do here.
Right.
But either way, you just need that one. Did you ever see that movie, Thank You for Smoking?
Nope.
So they have a great scene there where the main character is talking with a Hollywood producer about how to like put in more cigarettes into the movies. And he's mentioning about like, oh yeah, I can see it now. It's like it's on a space station. We have like a really sexy, zero G sex scene. And then once it's all done and over with, they both take out a cigarette and light them and smoke. Yes. And then the main character points out, like, wouldn't that like burn up everything in a pure oxygen environment? And then he goes, oh yeah, sure, but we just have to have a line of dialogue earlier that says, hey, good thing we invented that thing.
Right, yeah.
And I just like that because that's for anything in any kind of like speculative fiction. It's a flux capacitor. I don't have to explain what a flux capacitor is, but it's what allows time travel. You just have to invent something.
What's that Rick and Morty line? The answer is don't think about it.
Yes. No, that's the whole thing.
Which is how I always do all of my time travel shows. As soon as there's a time travel in it, I'm just like, all right, time to go on standby.
Yep. Well, our longtime listeners will know our thoughts on time travel.
Yes, true.
And hopefully we won't be having.
And if you don't know, you can go back in time and listen to the old episodes in a way that it actually totally makes sense. Anyway,
exactly.
On page 93, I was totally convinced that Obodo was going to pull a Ben Solo on us. Because just the way that the hilt was kind of slowly moving towards her stomach or something like that, I thought that he was just going to like turn it on and it's just going to go through her.
Oh yeah, this was 2016 too, so they would have been able to have seen the film first if they wanted to like.
Oh really? Oh okay.
Yeah, it was 2015. I remember. So the Force Awakens. So December too. So and this came out like mid. What's what I'm saying? Like in the middle of the year. So this would have been like I think July, August or something.
Oh okay.
But yeah, like you're right. That exact panel there with where you see the hilt is like, oh man.
I just love his lines though when he's running towards Father. I know where you live.
I live everywhere, son.
God, such a badass.
Not badass enough though. Still gets what's called pierced by all the tentacles.
Which also I don't understand how he survives all that. And he's just like, I love how he's just like, I'm going to be grumpy in the mountains now.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I'm also not sure how he survives that. Like he's captured, then he's like a big beam of light, and then he's in the sewers.
Well, the beam of light is him, running away. He does that. They do that transfer thing.
Oh, true. Yeah.
I mean, that's how Sai got away from Father as well. When she ran away, she then also like became digital or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But does he know that Sai is still alive?
Probably doesn't. Which makes it all the sadder.
Because, I mean, I feel like if he did, I mean, he could just go down and they could have a nice, happy life together on Earth.
Well, Chris,
but there must have been something that she could have done, like, sent him a WhatsApp or something.
Nah, they did what's called, the connection's terrible between Earth and New Japan.
Yeah, I guess. The calculation for an orbiting, city, state thing, whatever, it's really tough to do.
Ah, well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun. Well, it's kind of interesting because the first issue of the volume was very, this is really far back. So it's like, it's relevant, but it's also kind of like, okay, yeah, we don't really need to care too much in the sense of what's going on right now. It's a history lesson. But the last three, like the other three issues, are basically one long prologue for volume 1 of Rye.
Yeah.
Like all of this is set up for the first issue of Rye, which is kind of cool when you get to read it later. Like, I don't think if we read this first and then started reading Rye Volume 1, I don't think that would really have the same impact.
No, but that's what I mean. Like, first they show us that the character is liked, and then they can be like, all right, well, here's his backstory. Here's who he is. Here's where he came from. His mom was actually chosen like a Teen Choice Award.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's more.
Also, do you think she understands the consequences? Do you think that she thinks that she's going to get like, traditionally impregnated by Father?
Maybe she's going to be a bit disappointed.
Yeah, it's like, all right, now walk into this water. Ooh, but it's kind of cold.
Is that how supercomputers do it?
Yeah. No, you lay your eggs and then I come over them.
Yes.
Oh, that's like isn't that that's the best joke in Futurama?
Well, just the obvious, end point with any mermaid thing. Then in bed and just actually where do I stick it?
I just love that he just loves to he wants to stay away. He wants to leave his friends to stay with this mermaid that he's fallen in love with, and then thankfully they're just about to have sex before they leave, and then they realizes that he can't have sex, and then he comes right back.
The lost city of Atlanta.
Hmm.
Again, a joke that never really. It's not that it didn't make sense as a kid, but I didn't know what Atlanta was. So it's kind of like, yeah. It's just funny that they were sort of Southerners and stuff. Would it be Southerners? I think one guy had like a cowboy hat and had like a thick accent.
Yes, Atlanta is southern. Atlanta, Georgia.
You'd think it'd be more like an East Coast thing, the Atlantic. Oh well. But yeah, I mean, this was just the continuation of the issue, so. Issue 16. It is now near the beginning of the entire series, having reached our Rye, still under the influence of fodder. He answers a disturbance which involved several positrons who have been hung to death. This leads him to fight some raddies who give him a lead, only for it to kick off the events that lead to Rye's dead mother dumped into the restaurant aquarium. During this event, Rye meets Aboto, still sitting in the snow. He explains the master plan, but Rye is unconvinced and fights him, defeating him. He is then called to the restaurant, and thus starts Rye Volume 1. Ah, yes. Yes, cool stuff.
Indeed. I do like the whole kind of mystery aspect of this all. I mean, not mystery, but like, he's very Batman-esque in this whole thing.
Well, I think there's just something inherently appealing with sort of this procedural kind of stuff. Well, I guess this isn't really procedural, but mysteries are inherently gripping. And and the extra angle here in terms of it being like a sci-fi future mystery.
Yeah.
Just makes it cool. It just would make it hard if that was the focus, because unless we really go into all the lore, we won't have all the information about how the world works. For us to figure out the things ourselves. I mean, if we hated that the Detective Conan movie, it'd be even worse here because we just don't know anything.
Right.
Oh, it must be that guy because this is the physics of Earth. Aha! But they actually have nano machines in this one, so that actually doesn't matter.
Oh man, even freaking Oboto even went out like a Jedi Knight. I mean, he went out like Obi-Wan Kenobi. My job is done. As I said, you are too late. And then, sing! Literally the side slash.
Except for the evaporation.
Right. A lot of blood in this one because it's not PG-13.
Well, PG.
I kind of like the idea that the raddies were kind of doing a good thing. That this all happened. It wasn't like, because we always, I mean, obviously that's the point of the story, is to make us think that the raddies are like these really bad guys. And obviously because we're supposed to be on the side of Rye and Father in that sense at the beginning of Volume 1. But I like to see that even the beginning with his mom being murdered was also not it wasn't the raddies being like, ooh, let's kill this woman. It was really more like, no, we were trying to save her, but then something happened, or Father had a trick or like a dead man switch, inside her. So I really liked seeing this perspective.
Well, I mean, that's something I liked about this entire series in general. And that's also kind of Valiant as well. It's everyone's an asshole in the sense of we don't have like very clear goody characters.
Yeah.
Again, nothing wrong inherently. It's just interesting here in the sense of sure, the raddies have a point, but then anytime you go into these extremes where innocents die, that's where you kind of lose some of your like favor, especially from the people who you're trying to convert to your point of view.
Right.
And then, of course, Father keeping everyone blind to his own, tyranny by just giving them things they want, except, freedom. So it's just that. It's just cool. It works. And again, it's just kind of nice to, it's just kind of cool seeing it start off just ending with him seeing her. Like, I'm surprised we don't see Lula in this. Just like a quick thing to kind of like even more like hook it up. But it's just really nice. But yeah, I mean, it's again, this was just really like one really long sequence, so it's not really much to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird to see that Rai was literally born as a child, like a baby. I mean, I always thought that the Rais kind of just were created in their prime. So I
Mm.
mean, it literally is like, no, now you're 20 years old. You've been training all this time, and the people have been without a Rai for 20 years, and now you come in slashing a spider monster,
Yeah, no, and that's kind of the fun thing.
repping that Imperial Japan swastika again.
Yeah, I mean, we discussed that from the beginning.
Mm.
Which it makes me wonder if it was on purpose then, because it fits well without it feeling like, oh crap, people are complaining, we better change it.
Yeah, yeah.
It works super well with the way the story was told. I mean, if we were gonna like, if it was supposed to be New Germany or whatever. No, no, but like if since
The
people were
fourth Reich,
yes, no,
or
but
would it
if
be
we
the
were
fifth
to,
one?
I don't know, I lost count. I can't count very far. No, no, but like if we were to use that imperial Japanese flag as as an equivalent to the swastika, like what would that be then when he falls down on Earth? Like, would it be that it's kind of been pulled off and now he's just got like the German colors on, or how could that shape change to kind of like be something better?
Well, I mean, obviously, this idea is that that father became this radical kind of leader, kind of like in the Japan in World War II, and or pre World War II even as well. And I think that of course, this is supposed to be symbolized then that when he is released from him, that he then becomes his own man, and that's when the symbol fades as well. So, I mean, it works better here than with the whole swastika and Germany kind of thing because these two are at least similar. So like the lines can just go away, and then it's still like, oh, you still have your basic design, the same color scheme. I mean, you can't go from red and white and black to red, white, and black. Red, white, and black. Schwarz, Rot, Gold.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean it's a nice solid prologue. I mean, as you were kind of discussing a bit before with the previous volume, it's not so much of a crossover event as I was like making it out to be. So really, yes, it just being like a big Rye event. This is like a perfect
Yeah.
like companion piece, and it's kind of equivalent to the prologue for the Armor Hunters as well. And we kind of get more of an understanding of who they are, and like, okay, now I get it. So how would you rate this volume?
I don't know. I'd probably give it a green light, obviously, especially if you want to know a little bit more about rye. I mean, if you're not interested in rye, then obviously don't get it. I mean, that's kind of obvious.
Yeah, yeah, that's.
But it's just a very interesting look into his past, and again, I just love this kind of stuff where he comes from. So yeah, definitely a green light, and I kind of want to give it 5 out of 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna have to go for a 4 out of 5.
All right, I'm curious then. What put it down to
I don't know. I mean,
four?
there was something missing to get a full 5 out of 5. Maybe I should go for a 5 out of 5. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was reading it, I was enjoying it a lot, but there was just a little bit of something missing, and I can't really describe it. Maybe I wish they would have spent a little bit more time with the characters. I mean, obviously they can't necessarily, but yeah, that's just my gut feeling right now. 4 out of 5. If you asked me on a different day, maybe it would have been 5 out of 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, for me, 5 out of 5 for me means like the book has to like truly excel. You know what I mean? It's not just solid. It's like goes up. It goes beyond. I mean, doesn't mean that it has to be like cure cancer or something to be amazing.
Yeah.
But it's like where it's like, okay, this was really good, and then you added this, dude, 5 out of 5.
Okay.
So I agree with you in terms of 4 out of 5 at the minimum, in terms of quality. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not finding it really a good reason to not give it 5 out of 5.
All right.
So Because again, it tells a story. It works well on its own because it's a prequel. Though I wouldn't recommend reading this first before you read Rye, of course, because it ruins like the surprise.
Yeah, of course.
But it works really well, and again, a green light too. I mean, if you've been reading Rye, and this is the next volume in the Rye in the Rye series. So why wouldn't you want to know like the prologue and like the prequel to him? So, but yeah, real solid addition to the 4001 AD event.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So there's one thing though I've just kind of, not that I'm bothered with, but it's just kind of a bit of a nitpick with the whole AD thing. Because you remember in the Ivar Time Walker, they were using the BCE and the CE instead.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not like a big deal. It's just kind of like, so which is it, Valiant?
Well, I guess it has to do with the writer and their religious beliefs.
So yeah, I suppose. So like I said before, I'm actually in support of the BCE and CE.
I have no opinion either way.
No, for me, it's just like, yeah, why, it just sounds like a good compromise. Not that it matters in general.
I love that you actually had like time to actually think about this, like to actually weigh the options. Like, if I would be making a decision, which should I choose to use? I mean, for me, I've never had a point where I had to write BCE or AD or anything like that. I just write 2015. Like,
oh, we've written history things, right? Like
yeah, but still, yeah, but even then, even in the history essays, we never went that far back.
True, not in our last years. It's always been 20th century history.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if I'm talking about World War II, there's no way that when I'm saying in the 40s, I mean like the 1740s or even like 40 BC or something like that, So, yeah.
That's true. But yeah, it does sound better now.
I still have no opinion. You can discuss this episode on Reddit. You can tweet us or you can follow us on Facebook. Also, all of our episodes are available on our hosting site, Podbean. Links are in the show notes. Catch us next time for
4001 AD, Beyond New Japan.